Hey there, Kevin Kacvinsky here. Thank you so much for downloading the fundraising framework from my website. I'm really excited to dive in and give you a tour of this framework that I've put together. You know, it's really difficult for somebody who works in a system day in and day out to take a break and to step back and look at the basics. We just get our jobs done. We're nonprofit professionals are some of the busiest people in the world. And it's unlikely that we look backwards often enough. This framework is nothing, there's no rocket science in here. All this is forcing you to look at things that you already know and hopefully giving them new context and new priority in your organization. If you follow these 4 steps, you will increase fundraising for your organization and things will be more predictable. I promise you. This is the framework that I use every single time a client hires me to grow their giving. There is nothing in here that I don't do myself. So I can tell you that these steps and this order are very vital to your success. Now, you'll see that this has arrows like a process, but really the basis of this is the marketing funnel. In a marketing funnel, you add names to the top of the funnel. You have communications, events, other things throughout. And at the end, this is like a buyer's journey. At the end, not everybody gives or buys. So the bottom of your funnel can have more or less people in it. It can be wider or narrower, depending on what you do in between and depending on the quality of the people you add at the top. So this fundraising framework really walks through that. The first is adding names to the database. Most organizations say, we need new donors. Well, you need to communicate with more people and get your message in front of more people in order to raise more money. We know that. So you're probably saying, Kevin, I've done everything. We'll walk through that in a slide. The next thing is you have to capture the contact information of people so that you can go back to them and solicit a gift. Most people are not giving in their first interaction with your organization. So what you need to do is capture their contact information and have 6 to 9 touch points with them before they're going to give. If we are not revisiting people that we have told about our organization and haven't donated or asked and they said no, if we're not revisiting those people, we're leaving a lot of money on the table. The third step is to build and nurture relationships. So I have this split into a few different segments. The first is, what's the initial experience that people get when they come to your organization? I call that onboarding. If we are not taking people who heard about us and giving them a great initial experience, why would they want to stick around? The next is looking at the experience of our existing donors. Are they happy? This is where retention comes in. This is where avoiding lapsed donors and really understanding what is the experience of a donor and what are the types of things that keep them engaged. I put together something called a quarterly communication cycle, what the average organization can handle without professional help, and that I have found produces great fundraising results. Finally, different ways of thanking and appreciating donors. I have 6 thank yous and a pro tip in this one, and I'm excited to jump in. At the top of your funnel, you've got to add names. And the better the quality of the names, the better the end result. So the idea here is to look at who your ideal donor is. That's called your avatar. And what can you do in order to get contact information for that avatar. Remember, we're only interested at the top at getting the names and contact information. The communication and how we engage those people is an art, but that comes secondary. I put together a list of the 10 top ways that most nonprofits are sourcing names. This, because I don't know your specific organization, I can't give you specific ideas. For the most part, when clients hire me, I am developing things outside of these 10, but all of them are areas that can be improved upon or set up for you. So let me just give you a few examples. I'm not going to walk through every single one, but the first is web traffic. So you have paid and organic. Organic web traffic is people coming to your site and stumbling upon it. Most people will not give to an organization they just happen to stumble across. So don't spend a lot of resources thinking people are going to give by stumbling upon your website. However, you could have something on your website, a free gift, a free download, a invitation to an event, or you could partner with other organizations to drive traffic to your website and gather contact information from people. Paid web traffic is usually search engine optimization, SEO, appearing higher in Google or another search engine's top searches. So if people search the name of your organization, you are the first one that they see. There's also search engine marketing. Now, search engine marketing is where you pay to appear even before number 1 and 2, Google AdWords, and you pay per click. So you're paying for that traffic to your website. Don't pay for web traffic unless you have a way to convert those people to contacts. Social media is next, and this is in flux right now with Facebook. But for example, Facebook has a tracking pixel where you can gather information from people that visit a web page with that tracking information and are also on social media. So there's ways where building social media can help you. Another cool thing with social media is while you don't have contact information from people, you do have a captive audience. And so it's worth building a social media presence because you can get your message out to a wider audience. I will also say regarding social media that there's certain programs out there where you can take your social media audience and build a lookalike list, or you can try to gather the contact information from public records, or there's even donor management systems that can identify people's social media profiles based on the information you have in there. So there's a lot to do with these things that are under the surface that many organizations are not doing. PR and earned media is getting placed in newspapers, on social media. Don't blow your opportunity to have a newspaper article written on you by not having a call to action in there where people can put in their information. Network generated leads, that's asking your board, that's asking members of your staff who it is that they know that would be a great fit. Many organizations believe that they're doing this. I will say most of them come to me saying they've exhausted it, but give me a few days in an organization and I can definitely grow this. Events. So with COVID, a lot of events are virtual, but event registration is gathering contact information. Make sure nobody that came to your golf outing is excluded from future communications, even if they didn't give at the golf outing. A gala, a banquet. Keep that contact information. It's precious. This is where the money is. Ministry and program contacts. If you're a school, that could be the parents. If you are a hospital, that could be a grateful patient program. So every organization has people that they serve or volunteer there that are great contacts. Partnerships and sponsorships, these are organizations that do something complementary to you, and you can partner with them to both grow your lists. Granting foundations, donor advised funds. If your organization is big enough to have a fund there, that's a great place to start. But you don't have to have a fund at a donor advised place or a granting foundation in order to get gifts from them. Paid lead generation, obviously buying a list. I would say this is number 9 because I'd say this is the hardest to do and the least likely to produce a predictable result. Nowadays, with data the way it is, you could find other ways outside of this, but if you're not willing to do the work, there's always that option. I put number 10 as a bonus, and that is non-fundraising revenue. There are ways for nonprofits to generate revenue outside of fundraising, and not only is that good because it's increasing revenue, but there are contacts associated with that can help you grow your database. So now that you have names in your database, it's time to use it. I would say most organizations that I begin to work with have areas where their database can be improved. Improving a database is a long and arduous process, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out how to do it. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there, but focusing on your database and mining your data is a definite way to increase fundraising. So I have some things on here for the most commonly needed areas of improvement. One is standard operating procedures. How are people added? How often do you search for those? If somebody fills out a contact form on your website, are they added? Whose job is it? National change of address and data appending. So there's third parties we can refer you to that will take the information that you do have and find missing data. They will also update the addresses irregularly so that people who give to your organization or people on your mailing list, you have the right address. That also helps with wealth intelligence. You usually need an address, a name and address of somebody before you can build a wealth score. Social scoring is taking information from social media and giving the donor some sort of score or telling you how connected they are to your community. A lot of donor management systems will offer that. Building and utilizing segments. So the idea is that we want to communicate with our donors in a way that we're approaching them based on their interests, not our interests. So segments could be as simple as men and women, as simple as these people are parents. So you could send a happy Mother's Day only to mothers. It could be something like these are parents and alumni. These are clients. These are staff. These are pastors. Those are simple segments. More complex segments could be based on people's behavior or interest. So these people spent more than 5 minutes watching videos. So if you put out video content, these are the most likely people to watch it. These people read every article that we've ever put out on X, Y, and Z. So the next ask should be for that program, things like that. That leads me to the next one. The bonus is marketing automation. So there's software out there where you can automatically segment people so that you don't have to remember to do it. You can send an email, and based on what people click on or how long they spend on your website, they can be automatically tagged and segmented. It can also send emails in a specific sequence and start and stop certain things. It's really cool. If you don't know about marketing automation, take a look at it. It's incredible. And we really enjoy setting organizations up into marketing automation sequences, but utilizing the for-profit world of how retailers do that, but doing it for fundraising. The third stage to look at is this communications. How are people onboarded and how are existing clients experiencing you? So what we recommend people do is chart out, write out specifically, and figure out how to execute the first 90 days from somebody experiencing your organization for the first time. They come to an event or you get them referred from somewhere else. What exactly happens for 90 days? It's usually around 90 days that the first gift is made from a cold contact. So this is a great way to figure out 9 ways to touch that person in 90 days. This could be an email about your organization, followed by a phone call from a volunteer welcoming them, followed by a story of a beneficiary, et cetera, et cetera. I recommend to people that they give at least 6 touch points before they ask for the first gift. So the first touch point could be, thank you for coming to our event. And then it could put them into an automated sequence because they're new, welcoming them on board to your organization. A very important principle that I promote is what I'm calling an ask to touch point ratio. That is, your communications to everybody have to be balanced. You have to earn the right to ask people for their money, and you cannot over ask people. Donor fatigue is a real thing, and that typically happens when a donor feels that your only communication to them is related to fundraising. Now, I even had donors accuse organizations of always asking for money because, for example, their newsletter includes a remittance envelope. Is that an ask? To some people it is, and to some people it isn't. So I tell organizations you have to have 3 communications after you ask for money. So here is a cycle of communication to help you stay close to that touch point ratio. This assumes one other type of communication that they're going to get from your organization, but that doesn't necessarily have to be an official communication. That could be a phone call. That could be they come and volunteer, something like that. So I picked 3 things because there's 3 months per quarter. So you do one thing each month of the quarter, and you're in a good flow, and you know what you should be doing that quarter, and you're kind of forcing yourself and your cash flow to fit this type of cycle, and you're not always asking. The first is to give a newsletter. A newsletter is a great way to engage donors, no matter what their interests are. You can include in your newsletter not just donors, but also the people you're serving, the volunteers, parents, alumni, past board members, current board members. You can engage a lot of people with a newsletter and not have to recreate multiple things for all of those segments. The second thing is a beneficiary story. One great thing about a beneficiary story is the same segments love to hear that. You're basically thanking people for their impact by telling a story. And so a beneficiary story could be, if you're a school, it could be, look at our graduates. Because of our school, this student has achieved this success, and they attribute their success to us. If you're a pregnancy resource center, it could be a story of a mother and her baby. If you're a ministry, it could be a prayer that was answered. It could be a glory story. So no matter what you're doing, there's definitely a story that can be told about impact and success. Only then do you ask for money. And so you ask for money after you fed people, and continues the cycle that because you've asked them, you now put them into a cycle, and you're going to make sure you communicate with them before asking again. Now, you'll notice that asking in these 4 fundraising fundamentals for this framework are none of them are asking. Asking is tucked away where it belongs within communication. It's tucked away there because we focus on asking, and the real focus needs to be on communicating, not on asking. I've had organizations that communicate so well that people ask when the appeal is coming. They ask to give before they were prompted with a solicitation. So this is where I've come up with probably my most used motto, which is all successful fundraising comes from successful communications. Our last step is to thank our donors. Thank them more than any other organization out there. I say nobody ever stopped giving because they were too appreciated. So here are the 6 different times that I tell organizations to thank a donor. You'll see in the top line, this is after every single gift. 3 things after every single gift. And the bottom line is throughout the year. So when somebody gives, immediately make sure your donor management system, your online giving system, if they're the same, great. If not, sync them to work together to get out a well-written, very appreciative thank you letter following every gift. I know that it seems like it's just a receipt that's needed, but when you add that special touch of a well thought out thank you, that can make a huge difference. There's bonus points if you change that out often. Change it out monthly or quarterly, or at the very least annually, so donors will want to open it and read what you had to say. Second, a phone call. Yes, every single gift, even a $5 gift, gets a phone call. Make sure your donation processor collects a phone number when people give online, and make sure your remittance envelope or your form that you ask people to return with their donation has phone number on there. I oftentimes tell people, even highlight that. You want their phone number and you want to call them to thank them. Donors are so surprised when they pick up the phone and they're expecting you to ask for money, and all you do is say thank you. As a bonus on that, when you call, ask how they heard about your organization. Ask if there's anything that you can do, that you can pray for them for. Pray with them on the call. Also, ask them if there's any other people that they can introduce to the organization. And this is a great opportunity to connect. This counts as one of your touch points for the ask to touch point ratio. Finally, a handwritten thank you. This also counts as a touch point. Just write a thank you letter. You can include your standard printed version of of a tax receipt if you want, but write a handwritten thank you letter. Some organizations that are really busy, I say that it's okay to add a handwritten part to the donation receipt, but the best practice is to do an old school snail mail handwritten thank you note with a handwritten envelope and a real stamp. This will have a huge impact on your success in fundraising if you implement this. I promise you, within a month or 2, you will see results, and you will never go back to not doing this. Now, throughout the year, I say at the end of the calendar year, may not be the end of your fiscal year, but the end of the calendar year, start preparing a year-end itemized tax receipt. That should be itemized because it shows your accountability to your spending and it shows that you're fiscally responsible. Send that. The obligation is to send it by January 31st. Send that as early in January as you possibly can and show your donors you're on top of things. In that year-end tax receipt, include an impact report, thank the donors profusely, and let them know what their impact was. Every quarter, have a donor appreciation event. Invite the new donors and invite the existing donors. Come to your center, do it virtually if you're concerned, and just thank them. Don't ask for money. Don't just tell them what an incredible gift they are to your organization, and they will love this. I look forward to these at organizations because people are so happy. They are smiling ear to ear. They're excited to come and they're excited to be included. Finally, make sure you remember milestones. Email people, call people, write to them on their annual anniversary. 1 year ago today, you donated. You've been donating for 10 years. You are one of our longest donors as a 20-year donor. We've only been in existence for 25 years, and you've been donating 25 of those. You're an important part of our organization. Look at all the great that you've helped us accomplish. There could be monetary milestones. Every $1,000, $10,000, when people reach $100,000 or $1 million, depending on the size of your organization, set those milestones and reach out to those people and celebrate them. That's an incredible thank you. Birthdays and anniversaries. If you know your donors well enough, call them on their birthday, call them on every anniversary, and build that personal relationship. This could also include things like every year in a newsletter, possibly highlighting people by their giving capacity, things like that. The pro tip on thanking donors is make sure when you thank them, you're showing them their impact and the difference that they make. In every communication, you want to do that because just communicating that is a way of thanking them. I have a friend, David Oakes. He says, impact, I think this is the quote, impact is the currency with which you repay donors for their gift. That's an incredible insight. I 100% agree with that. In addition, make sure you stick to your ask to touch point ratio because having donor-centric communications, thanking donors, giving donors the credit for what you're doing, and making them the heroes behind your cause, and every communication takes away that donor fatigue, and they feel thanked and they feel appreciated, even if you're not saying thank you every single time. I hope this was helpful. And this is just the fundamentals of fundraising. If you can execute on one or two areas in each of these categories, I promise you, within a quarter, you're going to see incredible fundraising results. I appreciate your time. Visit my website, follow me on social media, read my blog. I look forward to connecting with you. And I will be in touch by email on occasion if you want. I never send more than 1 or 2 emails a month, and I only send something when I think it's worth it for your time. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to hearing about your success.